Certainly a long song. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Thursday, May 12th, 2016. And we are continuing with this. So, last time we had... Watch me have to, sneeze or something as soon as I get on, like usual. Last time we set up our helper functions and functions required to add and remove the auras around tiles that are within our range, unless, of course, the aura is required for movement. So if it's like, hey, this tile is being hovered by the camera, or it's being selected by the player to use as a move for something else, then that's not overridden by it. Come on. Oh, jeez. Are you kidding me? What is going on? It's trying to run as a debug? Really? I'm gonna shut this down. Stop. Let's try running without debugging again. Okay, I must have hit the wrong button then. Maybe I hit F6 or something. I don't know. I should have had Control F5, which is run without debugging. Anyway, so let's go to the title menu. I don't know why I haven't set the project to start on that anyway. Thought I did. Let me close this. Oh, I need to put the player first. Because otherwise AI never gives up their turn. So we can, move here. And I should mention as well, at the start of any given round, we haven't called this function yet. It's bound to a debug key at this point in time. Our next step is going to be to attach it to our turn events, but we don't have a turn event structure yet. We started to make one earlier, but and we have those pieces over there, which can't do anything. And if we are opposite, I could have just pressed play. I think it would have kicked me back to the right one anyway. If we're the opposite, if we're team number, if we're at spawn number 2, it's not our turn yet, we can't do anything. And shouldn't force that, so. Likewise, when we finish our turn, we can, when we finish our turn, it will be, it'll call that function again, and remove all the tiles. So we'll find out when our turn starts what our control structure is going to be. Okay, so. Okay, so first thing I want to do is if get current players is current player state. Shred out tiles. So we go here. There we are. And now we then, oh, nope. Copy, not good. Here we are. And there we are. So, we're looping through the tiles exactly once, and we are restoring it. I should move this here. So, we'll add a more descriptive comment for the entire block. So, you know, this. Only show in-range tiles at for current players. If it's player's turn. I'm used to typing Shroud because that's my boss's last name. So it's hard to type Shroud apparently when I'm at my computer. Force of habits. Right. So now we need to we need to get the all player controllers and tell them all to run this function every turn. This is going to be a bit difficult on the server because of the server. I think the server has. Let's check that. So, how much does the server have? So, okay. Dur says, I know what you mean. Sometimes I type in Chris NM when I meant to search for something else on YouTube. Yeah. Server and owning client only. So this is on the server. Crummy. Okay. Let's see what we can get from this. In network games, player controls exist on the server for every player-controlled pawn and also the controlling client's machine. They do not exist on a client machine for pawns controlled by remote players elsewhere on a network. That's good. The question is, how do I get, if I'm the server, how do I get just the server's player controller? Especially if they have multiple, because I'm not sure if split screen. I mean, okay, so if I have to deal with split screen, then it should be fine, but yeah. The reason why is because it's a very heavy operation. You're looping through every tile and changing its material. If you're the server and you have 5,000 tiles in the mat, or 4,000 tiles in a, because it would, you know, I just get a 5,000 if it's a rectangle, and non-base too. I'll give it a 50 by 10. Sorry, no, that'd be 500. 50 by 100. Wow, that's actually pretty big. Or it actually be bigger than 64 by 64, so that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, if you had a large level like that, and you have to do it for every player controller that's connected to the server, listen server will be I mean, it'd be easy if you only had dedicated servers. A lot of this would be a lot easier if you only had dedicated servers, because you can just do it for role authority. Don't. Or if not role authority. Or if role doesn't equal role authority. So let's see, is there a way for us to get UE4 get server player controllers? Get player controller on listen server. Oh. So I mean, you get player controller 0, but oh. Why are there 6 pedals if there's only 4 directions? This doesn't... This sounds like it's not gonna work, especially since this is 2014 and we've heard from people in 2015 saying it doesn't work. But we'll do, is local player controller. Is local controller is local player controller. That's interesting. Was the problem that people were using is local controller, not is local player controller? Because that would be hilarious. No, it's local player controller. No, it's local player controller. Okay, so let's create a new tab for this. A little tip: if you middle mouse button on a link or on a refresh button or pretty much anything that would open a site, Firefox and a couple other browsers too. Edge, I think, is starting to do this in a future build, but Chrome does it like that. It will open a new tab, is what I'm trying to say. So one way of duplicating a tab you have is just middle mouse clicking on the reload button. You just go middle mouse click and boom, you get a new one. So this one will be is local player controller, and let's see what people say about it. I mean, if I it's not gonna crash if I overdo it, right? It will just, well, it may show the incorrectly on the listen server.
Here we go again.
I mean, I guess one way of doing it is just forcing everyone who plays the game to run a dedicated server and the client game as separate processes, but that would be a bit of a dick move. Not good UX. But whatever. So, base game state. Okay, so, we're We're going to need the game mode to change the move. So how I think it's going to work is the player controller will signal to the game states. I could do through the player state to the game state, but that would just be an extra hop for no particular reason. Well, unless I want the player state to be involved for some reason. But anyway, trigger to the game state to send an RPC to the server's game state that says, hey, this buddy wants to change a turn, and then the game mode would validate it and then tell the game state if it could or not. And then the game state would trigger back. So kind of a little hop handshake. Base game mode. Actually, there's one thing I gotta check as well for RPCs. UE4 reliable RPC in order.
Here we go again.
So when calling RPCs, server or multicast marks as reliable, the order of execution guaranteed the same on a remote machine. So if you call reliable RPCs on actor A, all of those RPCs will be processed in the same order. But if you do RPC reliable on A and B, they won't be necessarily in the same order. But that's okay, because a lot of those will be called from the game mode or the game state. So what I can do is have these be reliable RPC calls that are in multicast or whatever. And then I'll be sure that level dimensions, players and teams, set up tiles, and set up pieces will all be done in that order. How long it will take, we don't know. We'll just know that it will be done in that order. And then when it's done, it's done. So what I could have is for net game state, set up the level dimensions, which is just a helper thing, set up players and teams, set up tiles, set up pieces. And then after this, I can have an RPC for complete. So I don't need to go and check on each client and see if everyone's in sync. Actually, I will be, but that's what it is. I can just have a function afterwards that when it's called, will say all of these are done. So that's good. Assuming, of course, yes, this is a staff member. It's not a random person. 1 second. Again, allergies. Okay, so that's actually very helpful. It's difficult to do things that are asynchronous, right? But as long as I have all these reliable, they will be synchronous. It just won't be... there's no guarantee how long it will take, right? So let's do get base game state. I'm thinking if I should do a null pointer check. Whatever. This would be a very stupid null pointer check to have ever trip, because it's when we're creating it. So if we're creating something that we don't have, that's a big concern. It should only happen if we accidentally set a game state that is not based off of base game state. Yeah, so... Part of me wants to have all these combined, but yeah. Signal. Let's do multicast. Multicast. Although multicast would probably be very delicious. Actually, no, it wouldn't. He says as he remembers what a cast actually is. Now I need to go into game mode, which I have base chess game mode. I really should have just put base game mode. That's 5 less letters I have to type every time I type it, but yeah. What did I have to do again? Well, they're in a game state, but I thought I had to do something here as well. No, because I have to do it just in base state, game state then. Set up, I should do multicast. Set up, game state complete. Right. Now I need to add a U function as such for each of these, so that Epic can do its thing and make all these functions awesome. Which means I now need to adjust how they behave in here. Set up. There we are. Okie dokie. Which means I'm also going to need, because they're reliable, does reliable functions require, let's actually see how this was, multicast broadcast move. It is the implementation. So now it need to be changed to implementation. Which I'm just gonna copy this chunk, and let's see if it works good. Yeah, good, okay. And this should build, but before I do that, I'm gonna close this off. Well, it shouldn't build actually, because I haven't added the last function in. Come on. There we are. Windows 10 has a bit of a bug with snapping. Things don't line up properly, especially when you have multiple monitors. Actually, I should check and see if that's something that's known. Because I have a really weird monitor setup where I have 3 horizontal and 1 vertical. And I noticed a bunch of bugs with that. So there's a weird bug where if you move windows around, actually I can probably show you. Let's use a Monster Cat one. So if you move, yeah, it starts to drift off and the mouse pointer actually loses track. See, the mouse pointer's not holding on to the same thing anymore. Maybe it's only for vertical monitors though. Like right now, it's down in the middle of a playlist. I still haven't let go of the mouse cursor yet. Down below the playlist. It starts to drift a bit. I think apparently I got rid of Windows Shake. Arrow Shake, I mean. Because this should minimize everything if I didn't disable it. Pretty sure I did. I normally do. And I've had this Windows 10 installation for over a year now, so probably would have gotten around to doing it by now, but yeah. So let's copy this, go below here, paste this, and instead of subtitles, have the set up GameState complete implementation, and we'll just have signal that, or set a flag says that the setup is complete, that the game state is ready to be used. Which means I'll probably just have a function that says set up. View property, edit anywhere, blueprint, read. Oh, let's do visible anywhere. Let's do it anywhere. There might be some reason I may want to lock it down for some reason. Category equals check it settings. It'll be bool. Setup complete. B setup complete, because for some reason Epic likes Hungarian notation. Should probably actually ask Tim Sweeney why he uses Hungarian notation for bools and just about only bools. So when it's constructed, it'll be false, and then it's going to have a bunch of RPCs called on it that are reliable, and eventually will trickle down to true. And when it's true, we can then use it, right? Now, there's many ways we can do it. We can have a tick that constantly loops and checks C when it's true, and then lets it do stuff, and if it's ticking and it's not true, it just kind of returns out. Or we can have an event that gets fired off, or we can do both. Depends on what we want to do. I'm not sure yet. We haven't really designed that far ahead. Let's keep going. No. Shoot, 1 second. Transform. Edit transform. Oh, fine. Oh wow, actually I got really close. Really close. Like I can't even notice the difference between these two. It's pretty good for just random dragging. Anyway, now we're on the right one. We can hit save. I really need to figure out how to disable OBS's. You know what? Let's just take 5 seconds. I should do this after, but you know. Okay, let's see. So you can see what I'm doing. Let's see here. Settings, hotkeys. Advanced, no. That's the dancing chess pieces. Okay. I really don't like how OBS has its own hotkeys, particularly since it's clear that they haven't really designed this for people who are creators, because Control S is not a hotkey you should steal from someone, right? It's been used by a lot of other applications for some pretty common tasks, such as save, right? Anyway, whatever. That's neither here nor there. So anyway, right, what I have to do is check and see if it builds properly. Well, it builds fine. That's good. That's a good start. This little squiggly lines aren't matching up with how it builds, though. Doesn't want to expand those macros or something. Anyway. Laggy. Okay, so this is the process for setting up the game. So this is when the game starts. It grabs all the tiles in the level, adds it to, and grabs all the pieces in the level, adds it to this. The players and teams are set up from the game instance, and set up all the dimensions are good. At this point, it may not be the same across client and server, but at this point, the setup is complete. Let's actually create an enumerator on the game state, probably because probably only needing the game state. I can add a check it types if I want to. Should I add check types? But then I need to add check types to anywhere I want it though. And it's only a GameState based one. Okay, so let's add the GameState. But GameMode might need to know it too. But then a GameMode would need to know GameState. It's GameMode. It has GameState already. Okay, let's add it to here. So let's actually get the standard namestate for the standard setup for that's for a Uenum. So Uenum blueprint type E. I don't want to call it GameState or anything like that, but E round status. Status. And then we can have so this is basically like handle match when you start and stuff like that, but we're doing it for ourselves because we're doing a turn-based system. So we kind of need to have our own. We'll let the game start its game and then dump it to our structure. Enum status. So what states do we want to have? So when we initially start the game, we kind of want to have everyone go to a spectator, right? Or some other pre-match setup, right? Where we can have everyone load the map, everyone get set up, everyone have their game states done, and once they're done, talk back to game state saying, hey, you are, we're already advanced to game states, and tell us when we should actually spawn to the level, whatever. So first is when people just are joining the game, and they are set up. They become set up. Their game state becomes set up. Then we want to actually spawn appropriate players. Are these the only two states we need? Or do we want more? So before match and during match? I mean, if we only have two states, that could be done with a Boolean. But it'd be an ugly Boolean still, so. So, joining match. Players have been created. Okay, so game state not set up. Game state not set up. Pre-match. Match started. If I do that, then I can actually remove this Boolean here and have it be the or I can remove this Boolean here and have it be the numerator. Because it's sequential, right? So, so game state not set up. Players waiting to enter, or players waiting to spawn. Players spawn, round begin. And probably round end as well. Okay, so so game state not set up. And yeah, okay, that's good. And then it would be players waiting to spawn, game running or in pro. Okay, so not set up, waiting to spawn, running, finished. Would that work? So not set up, waiting, spawn, running, finished. Okay, so the tnum byte, round status. Enum as byte, round status, round status. Which would then mean that in here, instead of that, it'll be equals round status, not set up. Round status equals round status. Come on, TeleSense. There we are. Waiting to spawn. Is there anything we need to do between setting up the game instance or setting up the yeah, so multicast, there we are. Is there anything we need to do between this? Oh, we do, because we need to wait for the players to enter. So we need to wait for all the player states to be added. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. We're getting their game instance, and we're telling them to add it. What I'm thinking right now is for spectators. So what do I do in the game instance? How do I do that? Or what did I do, I should say. So set up teams, current ID is that. So I set everyone to -1, and then through all the player slots, I assign it. So if ID is -1, there'll be a spectator. Is that correct? So I should do this again. At the end. But instead of this, we will then add to their game state, to their game instance, oh, I can't do that. So I have to get this game instance's game state. So let's actually look in game instance. So this is first. I'm going to delete this because this is wrong. So base game instance.h, check a unique ID. So if this is not set, or sorry, it's assigned UUID. Okay, so I don't need to do anything for this because I just need to have this be assigned UUID. There we are. So this is when I check here. Did I screw up? Okay, first local player controller. Interesting. Get first local player controller. First found local player controller. Fine for single player in split screen. One will be picked. Huh. So this is gonna be annoying. It's pretty clear that Epic hasn't really designed split screen that well in the engine. At least it seems. I mean, one way around this entire problem is to, for split screen, have the client connect, create multiple instances and connect multiple times, and then it would just be a matter of assigning the controller correctly to each instance. So we would have some way of having someone be like, this client, you know, register, press a button on the controller, and it assigns that controller to it. That could work, I guess, but I'm not sure how that would work in a UE4. It's nice to have split screen be done inside one state, but yeah. This is more for me than more than I can process in my brain at any given point in time. Oh well. Regardless, so if this player UID doesn't equal -1, here, it's greater than 0, I should say, greater than equal to 0. I think I did greater than 0 earlier. Not today, but, you know. Lesson 1, yeah, so, is less than 1, or is that greater than or equal to 1? Actually, it's an integer, so it'll be greater than 0. Because you can't have anything between 0 and 1 because it's an integer. Right. Okay. Now let's see if this compiles. Or builds. Actually, let's check on Epic Launcher. Yep, there's an update available, of course. Yeah, it succeeds. Okay.
Tell me lies so easily. They fall out your mouth as you
Oh, UT has an update. That's kind of cool.
keep falling down.
Not relevant to me at the moment.
I don't wanna play.
It's funny, actually. I played a lot of UT earlier, but I really didn't like Deathmatch or Capture the Flag. I was always into Assault, Warfare, Onslaught, whatever you want to call it. Vehicle Capture Flag. People like to play Capture Flag, so I played with them, but I was much more a fan of objective or vehicle-based modes. So it's kind of interesting for me, bringing this up, how there's a Assault game mode that's coming up, not through Epic, but they've been working on it for a while, and it's looking pretty good, so should probably start getting into that. So anyway, this is going to add this, so we will now have server request player state link, which means that server request player state link will need to validate to see if there's any P's perspective to stop the gaming sessions. Pity. We want to do that again, but it's a Patreon thing, right? So yeah. There's a couple other things that are Patreon things as well, but we'll actually, you know what? I was hoping to make this a surprise. Do I want to ruin the surprise? Okay, whatever. I'm working on some work in progress things, and I'll show it to you right now. Don't? Okay. I was just at the folder too. Basically, I'm doing some animation stuff, and it's taking a while because I was originally intending to have the art style be emissive, and the nice thing about emissive materials is that they take the color they are assigned. They are not affected by lighting. They are not affected by shadowing. And therefore, when you compute them, you don't have to do the lighting. You don't have to do the shadowing. You don't have to do anything like that. So you can actually even do it real time. Started liking some of the style that the ray traced look had. So I switched to doing that. But now... And also, I kind of knew that I had to do some of that stuff because I wanted to make some some metal-looking textures and things like that. I underestimated how much time it would take to render, though. It was, we're talking about like 8 hours for a chunk of 500 frames, which is like 8 seconds. So if we're doing a 4-minute video, and you have an overnight session for each 8-second chunk. That can be a problem, right? So, yeah. But yeah, there's some Patreon things we want to do. It could be easier depending on how it works out, if we end up getting either a lot of ad revenue through YouTube or I should say, enough money through Patreon, or the combination of the two, to do it again. There might be some other ways we can do it, like having Ryan have me... VPN into a server he just sets up in the office. Because the biggest problem is I only have one machine here, so I can't run a render when I'm doing the Gamecast because, my computer's bogged down to the point where I can't even really play StarCraft at that time. So basically all I can do in it is watch videos or write news articles, and that's basically it for as long as I'm rendering. So there are some things that I'd want to do with it. And there is some benefits to, or there is some ways around it too, like if you, each frame takes like a minute or so, sometimes 10-20 seconds for some really easy frames, sometimes 3 or 4 minutes for a really hard frame. Some frames I had earlier for, actually, for the logo you're seeing right here, especially when, so you see the logo. I was trying to think how I move mouse cursor, but I could just point. This logo right here, because of the shading here and here. In order for you to get these shadings, you need to have very, very thin lights, which means you need very high samples to get it so it doesn't look weird or noisy when you start doing animations like this. And the chess pieces were fine because those were environment mapped, but when you start doing that little animation, that 2-second animation took 24 hours to render, which means that my computer can't do nothing for 24 hours. It doesn't have to be continuous 24 hours because each frame was 15 minutes long. I could stop the recording, stop the rendering, killing whatever the 15-minute chunk I was doing at that point in time, that one frame, and start it up at that point later on, and then just combine the two render chunks. Yeah, 24 hours, ew. And combine those two chunks later on. So, if I was to be like, oh, I need to start the stream, I could do the first 100 frames, stop the rendering, whatever stop number I was at, record that, so when I'm in Blender, start from that frame, right? And finish the rest off later. But that's still a big chunk of time that you can do it in small increments, but you still have to lock down your computer for that amount of time, right? And you, like I said, you can't really do anything else besides watch a video and I have a pretty decent computer too. It's a GTX 670 with a Devil's Canyon 4790K. Stock clocks. I'm not overclocking it, but still. What are you gonna do? You're gonna get an extra 10% performance of an overclock, right? Instead of taking 15 minutes a frame, it'll take 14 minutes a frame for this stupid logo. Basically, the problem was I did this logo in 2D, and I'm like, oh, let's transfer it to 3D, and you're thinking, how would you do that? Well, you need thin, long lights to get this kind of gradient pattern here that would actually look good in motion. Because, I mean, I could just paint it on if it was static motion, but when you have long, thin lights, then you're going to have issues when you're reflecting. If the ray trace hits it and bounces and misses, it's going to appear dark, like black. If it bounces and hits, it's going to appear bright, like white, like beyond white. So in order for you to get the actual shade of gray between, you need to send a lot of those rays into that one pixel, such that the amount that hits the light and the amount that misses the light will average out to the color it should be. When it's a very thin light, you need a lot of those rays, otherwise you'll end up every one of them missing because you only sent 10 out, right? So you end up having to send 1,000 out. And when you start sending 1,000 out, then you start getting 15-minute render times for the entire 1080p frame. And when you're doing 60 frames per second, because I want to have smooth animation, add. 1,000 samples per pixel, 2 million pixels per 1080p frame, 60 frames per second, 2 seconds ends up being a hell of a lot of samples. And there's just no way around that. And that was all because I made a 2D effect that just doesn't transfer to 3D without very awkward, long, thin lights that are very close to scene. As a matter of fact, I was actually nervous because it took me a while to make these things not intersect with the ring, because they're right up close to it as it rotates. See if you can actually see that. See, first one, about 3 seconds from now. 3, 2, 1, here. The ring might actually intersect with the lights. They were that close. So it took a bit of work to have it close enough that you get that nice gradient effect, but far enough that you won't actually end up having a blackening as the ring goes outside the light or through the light. So that's annoying, but it ended up working. These ones are a lot easier, though. They're mostly environment mapped, so you can get frame times that are a handful of seconds, maybe a minute or two, if you have a really thick or busy frame with a lot of things on screen at once, a lot of reflective materials that take up a big chunk of the screen. Yeah. So anyway, that's the thing, is it takes a lot of time for that, to the point where I'm actually debating whether I want to actually use like Unreal Engine or some other system to do the rendering, because Unreal Engine's real time and it'll output 60 frames per second at roughly real time. So I can render like that, right? There's a big difference between seconds per frame and frames per second. Or minutes per frame and frames per second, alright? Yeah. Assuming that the frames per second is a non-decimal number. As in greater than 1. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how it works out. So anyway, what we have to do now is to, with the server request player states link implementation, we now have to check after each of these whether all of the player states are accounted for. Probably the easiest way of doing this is to go into teams, search for all the teams, and search for any team that's listed as a player, but has a player state of null. If that is no longer the case, then we can advance on and say, okay, the game is set up. If that's not the case, then that means that one of the players has not connected. And then we have a choice. We can either flip them to an AI and let the game continue, or we can kick them out. Or sorry, we can kick every player out to the menu and say, hey, someone didn't connect, want to restart the game. The probably better way of doing it is having some, like StarCraft does it, having some countdown of saying, hey, someone's not here, and then people can vote to kick them out, or the server host, if it's not the host themselves, can't. Actually, why would a server not connect, right? Because if they're a listening server, oh, okay, maybe it's a dedicated server. That makes sense. Have the host kick them out and keep going, or have the host decide, click, go back to game, go back to menu. That's all UX stuff, though. That's, you know, the point of us right now is just having that structure in the background such that whatever we choose on the user interface side of things, not standpoint, but side of things, will physically work with our backend, right? So yeah, let's do that. And then we'll have to referral authority, and then we will do for int32 I equals 0, I less than teams.num, I plus plus, add a new loop here for int32 j equals 0, j less than teams I dot members dot num, j plus plus, and this will also help us debug and see some stuff too. So bool waiting on, or be waiting on someone equals false. If team I dot members j dot player state equals null, and teams I dot members j dot player type equals player type player. This would help us catch the setting AI as player issue. Be waiting on someone equals true. So now we're looping through all of these, and if we are waiting on someone because we don't have their player state assigned here, and we don't have, and there is a player still waiting, so if it's AI, we can start without AI because they are here first, right? They don't actually exist. We create them on the fly, right? True. If not be waiting on someone, we will Actually, we should probably have an extra state for ready to spawn. So we can have something between waiting to spawn and running. Come on, wake up. There we are. What was I even doing? Oh, here. So if we're not waiting on someone, we will then multicast out again to change the player state to ready to spawn. Then we could just have each game state tick, and when it's ready to spawn, move forward. I'm not sure if there's any reason why a client would need to know that, but unless I literally want to make a runtime countdown and be like, everyone's here, 3, 2, 1, go, right? Or some crap like that. If not be waiting on someone, we will then add a new multicast delegates. Get multicast, event ready to spawn. We actually want to make it virtual. If for some reason any specific game mode, I'd want to have this be modified. So let's make it virtual. I think you have virtual multicast functions. Okay, so now in base game states. Multicast event ready to spawn. And then round stats will be ready to spawn. Is that correct? There we are. Now let's see if it builds. She builds, that's good. Move token, which I think is in check-in types. Yeah. What we could do is have, if start or destination is -1, have it be a skip. Or we can just have type of move be a skip, so E-move type. Do I even use E-move type at any point ever? Let's do final references. I think I may have actually got rid of it all the instances of it. Oh, no, for the, yeah. Yeah, I don't want that to happen. I want it to be a different enumerator. Really, it should be a structure. Or not, no, it'd have to be a, And the reason why I'm thinking this is because a move could also be a trigger of some sort, or a move could also be a blah. A move can also be a blah, a move can also be a blah, right? So... yeah. Anyway, regardless. We're now ready to spawn. Oh, nope. So let's see here. So this when we set ready to spawn. Currently all it does is just sets the state to ready to spawn. Oh, it would also need to despawn spectator cam, spawn players. Actually, this doesn't have to be done on the client side. So what would happen in a server? So, spawn player UE4. Actually, this would be something. This could be something. Blah, blah, blah. This is one thing that could be kind of cool if we have, as players go into the game, their spectator cam would actually be a cinematic camera that would go between the from spawn numbers 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, whatever, however many spawns there is, and loop in the back. Like as that happens, maybe have something on the front of the screen as well for our interface. And when that happens, we can shut it down and spawn them as an actual player. That could even be on the same player class as well, but we'll see. Okay, so you set up a game mode with default pawn class, which is your character BP. Then the engine will spawn the character as soon as the game starts. In multiplayer games, this also counts for connecting players. If you don't want to have a default spawn, default pawn spawn, set default class spawn, whatever, blah blah blah, whatever. And spawn a character later in the game by doing a spawn actor from class and using your controller to possess the newly spawned character. Okay, so you want the server to call its possess. So is that a reliable function? So server possess. I should probably prefix this with UE4. Possess pawn. The correct way to possess a pawn in multiplayer. It's run on server and pass your player control as a variable when you call it from the client. The server event code to possession and use the controller to pass the event. Okay. So what we're going to need to do is do it in the server game mode. Or does it just have to be server in general? Can we do it in server GameState? So if role authority, blah. Or let's just do this here. So UE4 respawn. Blueprint multiplayer respawn. Engine version 4.1. Before you start, make sure the pawn can fully function under a dedicated server and client situation. Having a gamepad is highly recommended. So you can have the second player be played locally, of course. Assuming you got a working pawn and replicate and control properly. If you have any key button inside your pawn's blueprint, make sure it's replicated on the actions, whatever. Scroll down, modify your pawn blueprint. You only require a blueprint to modify its game mode and a player controller blueprint. So the player controller is default and not getting replicated. Which is good, as the only thing server requires to update all clients' pawns is parameters. The client's player controller is indeed connected to the server. A pawn gets destroyed under a game mode condition. Say health below 0 is the game mode that will destroy your pawn on the server. The server will update that event and request your client to also destroy your pawn. When this happens, your server side controller gets attached from the pawn pending destroy, so you lose possession of your pawn before it gets destroyed, and you'll see it disappear on the client end. If you try to respawn from server side, which is handled by game mode before client properly loses possession, some of the core class code might detach your controller again. A proper way to initiate respawn is to make sure the client side player controller already controls no pawn. Then issue an event that says server side player controller to make a request to game mode handles respawn. So we call a server side player controller to request the game mode handle respawn. And then the game mode only on serve rules spawn the pawn you want to possess. You want and possess it with the server side player controller. You can certainly add more requirement like minimum spawn delay, how many lives, etc. to determine if a client will respawn or not. But it's bare minimum, blah blah blah. Okay. Blueprint implementation. First, the custom game mode to handle respawn. So if your authority spawn actor of that type with whatever transform, even if colliding, sure. If it's valid, then force controller to possess. So there's a respawn event. So okay, so custom event's called a respawn. Run on server and reliable. It's 11, so we're gonna be cutting it. Well, not cutting it short. We're gonna be calling it quits in a couple minutes. Okay, so it seems pretty simple. You just need to call spawn actor and possess on the game mode. And that apparently will force it to occur. On the client as well. So the main thing of what this tutorial seems to be doing is to have the client be able to tell the server I want to respawn. The chunk I just wanted to find out, though, was whether a respawn that occurs on the server will be replicated to the client, or whether I have to do something to push it back. Looks like it will just happen if you do it in the game mode, and it will just work. The game mode will communicate with the client properly. So that's good. So that's that. So next time we'll continue working on this, and hopefully we'll soon have a match that will start, join properly for all connected players, and then let us pick up pieces and so forth. We'll keep moving towards that. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.